Today, Sri Lankans remembered with great sorrow the hundreds of compatriots, our countrymen, who lost their lives in the most dastardly attack 6 years ago on Easter Sunday, the Easter bombings as they are known. It's been 6 years. Do we know what happened? Not really. There's been very little information which has come forth over the last 6 years, and hopefully things will start rolling now and we will learn the truth, or we'll learn more than what we know at the moment. To discuss this, I have with me Dr. Ajantha Perera, noted activist who fights for human rights, environmental rights, political rights, and so on. It's great to have you once again.
So good to be here. Thank you.
Right,
Thank you so
and
much.
it's lovely to have you on face to face. Dr. Ajantha, now let's look at the Easter Sunday attacks as a symptom of what is wrong with our system, our society, our governance. Here we have events which took place 6 years ago, and the whole world gasped in horror at this. But right now, do we know exactly who did it? Who was behind it? Why they did it? Who looked the other way? Who knew about it? And perhaps most importantly, who helped to cover it up after the fact? Now, Dr. Ajantha, just yesterday we heard the shocking news that the Presidential Commission report into the Easter Sunday attack had not been handed over to the CID, and President AKD ordered yesterday that it should be handed over to the CID. So this is unimaginable, isn't it? That, for nearly 6 years this report was in the hands of successive presidents, President Sirasa, President Gotabaya, and President Ranil Wickremesinghe, and we all assumed that the CID had been given a copy, surely. But apparently not, because President AKD has ordered this now. What is going on? What is going on in Sri Lanka in the establishment?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, basically, I want to start off by saying how sad I am to hear of Pope Francis' death, as well as I want to say how sorry I am regarding everyone, from Sion Church to Katua Pitya to the Colombo Church, where the people died, and there are a lot of grieving people today. People who remember their loved ones, even though it's 6 years ago, but it may seem like yesterday for them.
And including those who died in the hotels, which were
exactly, and those who died in the hotels, and very important people that who used to be around on television. So just to say how sad we are, we wish that it would never happen ever again, and this is why we talk about it. Basically, with regard to the Easter attack, I see a total breach, a total destruction of the security system of Sri Lanka. Because if people can't go to church and they cannot be sure that they can come back home after worshipping, what's the use of living in a country? The Constitution says very clearly everyone has a right to have a religion, they have a right to assemble, and they also have the right to be safe in this country. So when we talk about governments before, when it actually happened, what happened was that the people lost security. It's a security of Sri Lanka that was blown away. And basically, the question that comes to me is, the Indian intelligence have informed. They have informed that there is a terrorist group who are likely to be doing something. They probably did not say bombing, but they were going to do something, some form of an attack, and the Sri Lankan government was informed of it. It was not as though nobody said anything about it. And it was informed. So when a country is informed of the security problem, then it is the most important thing is the National Security Council, which was established in 1999. What did that do? What did the National Security Council do? This is the big question. And then when we look at it, when we go through the stories that were told, the National Security Council says, we didn't meet. We didn't meet because it was not a statutory committee, which I believe is rubbish. If it was established in 1999, and if there is a list of people who needs to be in that committee, National Security Council, why didn't they meet? They were meant to be taking minutes. They were meant to be following up on the day-to-day activities which are actually happening. Why didn't they do that?
But Dr. Ajantha, even if they didn't meet, the members, the individual members of that National Security Council, they are not ordinary citizens from the street. They are people holding high positions. President, Prime Minister, other ministers, IGP, the armed forces chiefs, the intelligence chiefs.
Exactly.
So just because the council didn't meet, did or did not meet, or didn't discuss, or they weren't invited, or whatever, it doesn't mean that these individuals should not have done their job.
Exactly. And there are many questions that are still unanswered. For example, the question of the terrorist group has remained in Sri Lanka for some time. And then there were these, the Buddhist statues were destroyed. People knew that there was a terrorist group around. This was not hidden. Everybody knew about it. And then we had this constitutional crisis in Sri Lanka during that time, just before that, 2018, when the then Prime Minister was removed and a new Prime Minister was brought in. And then there was a big issue in the country when the Prime Minister, then Prime Minister, was in Araliagaha Mandira, and the new Prime Minister was in Parliament, right? And there was a big issue at that time. Now the security groups are in place. The terrorist group is known. It's carrying out its activities, and at the same time, this constitutional crisis takes place. How unstable is the country? Extremely unstable. I mean, I firmly believe this was the time when the terrorist groups would have started working. Because when a country becomes unstable and nobody is paying attention to the security of the country, then of course the terrorist groups would begin to work. And so eventually, when it came, when Mr. Ranil Wickremesinghe was re-established, right, and then came these informations to the government, and by that time the National Security Council was also all over the place. And I believe the people who were in power has a lot to answer.
Now, you bring up some valid points about that whole 52-day charade where we had two prime ministers.
Exactly.
And all that nonsense going on. However, now does that excuse the IGP, the director of the CID, the directors of military intelligence, the armed forces chiefs? They have nothing to do with this 52-day government charade in Parliament. They had a job to do.
Exactly. So basically, with regard to the report, there were three reports actually. The number one was called the Malalgoda Committee report. That was
That's
the very first one.
Yes.
And that was actually established on the 22nd of April.
Yes.
And in 2019, and the report has come out on the 10th of June 2019.
Very quickly, in fact.
And then you have the Parliamentary Selective Committee, which was established on the 22nd of May 2019, and the report of the Parliamentary Selective Committee has come on the 23rd of October 2019. Then I don't know why there is a second Presidential Commission. That was established on the 22nd September 2019, and the report has come on the 1st of February 2021 during the time of President Gotabaya. So there are, the report that you are referring to, which the present president has handed over to the CID, I presume is a Malalgoda Committee report. Now, if that is so, this is long overdue. Now, the whole purpose of a report is fact-finding. Fact-finding in the sense not out there, but rather based on the material that they have discussed, and they have come up with some recommendations. So those recommendations are extremely important for the CID to do the investigations. So which means the CID has also failed. Because the CID should have actually demanded for the report. They have the right to demand. Their head is in the National Security Council.
How could one be the head of the CID where there is a 6-year ongoing investigation, and there have been so many heads of CID, directors of CID, whatever. Didn't any of them even verbally ask the president of the time, sir, could we have a look at that report?
Exactly, and very especially, now if the report is finished, it was the duty of the president to bring it to the National Security Council and to say, here is the report, and to hand it over to the IGP to say, now you have to continue with whatever the content that is in this report. Because why waste money? Why waste resources? Why waste people time if you're not going to do anything with the report? So the president's first thing, his duty was to hand it over to the IGP and say, here is the report, now you need to carry out the investigations. And thereafter, once you've done the investigations, then now we have to hand it over to the judiciary, because the judiciary has to take decisions. And that whole process has failed. Now, the question now I have is, the Right to Information Act was there. So, if the Right to Information Act was there, why didn't the people of this country also ask for it? At least to have some people asking for it, demanding for it, going on the streets and questioning, right? Because instead of going on protest marches, they should have demanded for it. Because demanding for the report would have shortened all these things, and by now we would have the culprits in prison. But we couldn't put them in prison because nobody knows what the recommendations are. Basically, even up to today, both of us don't know what the recommendations there are. So if somebody wanted to hide them, if somebody wanted to keep the recommendations away, that means that particular person or persons their names are in it. Otherwise, why do you fear?
Or they have some agenda with this.
Exactly.
Because if you're the president and you're given the presidential committee commission report, if you have nothing to fear and you have no vested interest in it, you will do your duty and hand it over to the CID or any other investigative arm. So if you're going to hide it under your pillow or under your mattress,
exactly,
you've got a problem, and the people have a problem with you.
Parliamentary Selective Committee report. Parliamentary Selective Committee report has been handed over to the President on the 23rd of October 2019. What's in it? Nobody knows. And then the presidential report, which was the committee that was appointed on the 22nd September 2019, has been handed over to the President Gotabaya. I don't know whether anybody has seen that report.
Now, it's unfathomable that the three presidents, Sirasa, Gotabaya and Ranil Wickremesinghe, that they did not read these reports. I mean, surely they didn't say, oh, that's just another report and put it to the side. Or oh, I've got other things to do. I'm too busy with the country's bankruptcy or whatever. This was and is a huge issue, a burning issue.
Yeah, and I think, now that the report is in the hands of the CID needs to really work faster on this because it's long overdue. We don't have time to waste right now because the people, this is a security issue. This is not even about the people who died. This is a security issue. We need to know exactly what happened. Because it doesn't not only involve Sri Lanka, but involves many other countries in the world. And we need to know who the network is. We need to be extremely cautious because we know that it can happen again and we don't want to have it happen. For example, I was thinking yesterday there was a tight security on the churches. People were checked when they were going to church. But look at the Dalada Maligawa today. People, it's full of people. And there are lakhs and lakhs of people around that area. Nobody knows what's happening. If the slightest thing happens, right, we should not regret. And I think security is extremely important in Sri Lanka because we do not know when things can happen. And we need to say to the present president, the National Security Council minutes, the National Security Council must be maintained extremely well. It should become re-established. It should be taken seriously. And the people should also know something of if there is some insecurity in the country, because at the end of the day, it's the people who will suffer. It's not the National Security Council who will suffer, it's the people who will suffer. So the people need to know exactly what's happening in the country. Are there any threats in the country? Are there any reasons why we should not travel somewhere? Are there any reasons why people from different countries should not come to Sri Lanka? I know we are bankrupt, but we are not that bankrupt enough to say anything can happen in Sri Lanka. So we need to make sure that the National Security Council is active. This is extremely important because I remember during the last time, one of the presidents was saying that the National Security Council did not call me or I was not invited. But if the Prime Minister and the President is named in the as members of the National Security Council, then no invitation is needed.
No, there is a saying in Sinhala, are you waiting for Bulat?
Bulat.
Beetle. And that's very apt right now because everybody dodged saying, I wasn't told, I wasn't invited. But in the end, they were all responsible, but they didn't take the responsibility.
Yeah, the sad part of this Easter attack is that, when India informed Sri Lanka, the letters went around informing each other that there is a threat, right?
Apparently, the police department sent out a circular to all VIP security units. But what about us, the public?
It doesn't matter what happens to us.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't see any of the Christian members of parliament going to church that Easter Sunday. They watched their neighbors and friends go off, knowing that there may be an attack.
And also another thing
this is a breakdown of
defense
and of humanity.
Oh yeah, security.
And 6 years down the road, are we safer?
Well, another thing is, you see, it's not only about the president, it's not only about the prime minister, it's not only about the speaker of the parliament, it's about every single member of the parliament. They get paid, they were given allowances, they had luxury, they were given everything for them to function as members of the parliament. And yet, when so many people died, 269 people died, including 42 foreigners, and 500 still, some, in some, the eye is missing, or maybe the fingers are missing, they are crippled, they can't move about, they can't think, Was none of them interested? None of the members of the parliament interested in finding out what was in the report? Who did this? Why didn't the public were not informed? I mean, they lived a happy life, no, after this? No parliamentarian talked about it.
And even when the Cardinal demanded a copy of the report, what was finally given to him had been basically redacted so much that it was rubbish. So I'm not sure who got out a pencil and eraser and white out or whatever and just crossed out so much of it. Maybe it was the president at the time or one of his officials. But again, they hid behind this national security and kept the people in the dark.
Yeah, and also I think in terms of the cardinal, I really want to say, as the head of the church, it was also very, very important that if you get a document which is only part of it there, right, he should have really demanded, going to the courts under the fundamental rights, he should have demanded for the whole report, because it's very important that we get all these things, because without them, how are we going to function? The recommendations of the Malalgoda report, the recommendations of the Parliamentary Selective Committee, the recommendations of the second Maithripala Sirisena's presidential report, right? All three needs to be public, because the reason being, it matters to us to know what really happened.
And who did what? Who facilitated all
Exactly. And then, living in Sri Lanka becomes a very fearful thing, because you can get away with anything. Today we see on the streets, people are getting killed. This one got shot, that one got shot, 2 died here, 2 died there, a young child dies, right? We are hearing, it's like a film story. Every day we hear news about someone dying, somebody being shot dead, but nobody knows who did what. This start, I remember from the Aragalaya time. How many dead bodies were washed ashore? Young people, they still have such a life ahead of them. They were killed, nobody said anything about it. And today we see again and again, it's the young people who are dying. And when young person die, when a single young person die in this country, the future of Sri Lanka is at stake. Young person means many more years to live, many more to contribute. And why? This is the big story. So the defense in Sri Lanka, the defense system is very critical, and we need to be very vigilant. And then also another thing is, now let's look at one little story. A man walks into the magistrate courts. He carries a book. He has a gun inside that book. Nobody knows about it. He goes right in there and then shoots the man he wants to kill right in front of the judge. A woman is there to assist him. They come out of that courtroom without a problem. They walk into a bus, get to somewhere like all the way to Putlam, 2 or 3 hours of journey, no issues, no problem. He's happily at home, and then they start looking for him. This girl called Sevandi still missing. Is this justice? Is this security? Is this what you can offer us? Not only me. Is this what you can offer the people of this country who's paying you out of their tax?
That's certainly a very valid point, and I hope the police department will take cognizance of this, that they are not up to the mark at all. We need to take a short commercial break right now, and we'll be right back, so don't go away.
Entertainments. ඔබේ ගමේ නගරේ දේශපාලනයේ හෙට දවස සතිය දිනවල සවස 6:00ට.
If you do not perform, or if you have not performed, and if you do not perform, this is a protest vote we are going to place, and that signal, that protest vote will go down very well, because the government will know that their popularity is coming down and they will have to arrest him.
This government needs checks and balances.
You can't say only winning parties announce their candidates. There have been it has been time and time again where, candidates are chosen.
Our police is still being restructured and reformed at the moment, and that is part of the reason. But I also think organized crime is a bit unsettled at the moment.
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m.
Entertainments.
Welcome back to Face to Face. I am in conversation with Dr. Ajantha Perera. Now, Dr. Ajantha, you mentioned before the break that the accomplice in the Halsdorf shooting, Sewandi, is still at large.
Yeah.
But no one is really surprised, because this is a police force which did not find its own IGP for how many weeks when there was a warrant out for him. And of course, after he surrendered, again, he walked into the courtroom and surrendered when it became clear that he could not get away. A few days later, we are told that some constable who was his bodyguard has been arrested for aiding and abetting. But we still haven't been told where was he hiding, which vehicles did he use, were they official vehicles, was he armed, because he was a fugitive. None of that. So the police department needs to come clean with their investigations. They shouldn't be hiding facts. when the people have a right to know.
Exactly. And I really want to also raise another issue, a very important one. We are going through a debt crisis. We are going through a country which is really down the drains at the moment, and the president is working hard to bring it up, and I thank him for that. Now, while
there's a lot of hope for the future.
Yeah, so we are talking about these things because we want a better country. That's why we talk about it. Now, Express Pearl, we have been saying, I mean, I remember during the time of Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, when he was the Minister for Justice, he said it out loud in the parliament, right? There is a 250 million USD in the Lloyds Bank in England, and he gave the name of the person to whom the account belongs to, and he gave the number of the account. And when I talked about it, the CID called me and they asked me questions for about good 4 to 5 hours.
I mean, it wasn't your account, was it?
No, but I was asked to come and I was asked to tell them exactly why I said that. And that's because Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said that in the parliament. I said it out loud and said there is this bribery issue. Okay, I was very happy to go to the CID and actually give all the whatever the things that I know, because they also gave me some nice biscuits and tea, and for which I am very grateful.
They gave you biscuits and tea. Well, the last time I was there, they gave me a cup of tea, but no biscuits.
Being a female, I think sometimes it helps. So, but the question for me was, though they were extremely polite to me, they took down everything that I spoke about, but nothing came out of it. All what they needed to do was this 2 people from CID to travel all the way to England, go to the Lloyds Bank, check the accounts and find the person, right? And get the money. Because that money belongs to Sri Lanka. 250 million USD, right? Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa is no longer a member of the parliament. But he is not even called and questioned. He is living happily, he is living very happily, right? And the country is suffering, and somebody else is using the 250 million USD, and the country is at a loss. Same thing. 4.4 USD, 4 million USD was spent for a court case in Singapore by Mr. Rajapaksa, Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, and also then Attorney General, Mr. Sanjay Rajaratnam. Now, basically, up to now what we know is the court case is not getting anywhere. But we are spending millions of USD on that court case, which is at a traffic jam. Nothing is happening. At a halt.
So again, we have a lack of transparency, because we don't get regular updates on this unless a journalist goes and ferrets it out. We are simply not told. It's just sort of falls to the bottom of the sea in this case. Of course, Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and Mr. Rajaratnam are not here to enlighten us, but perhaps they should come out and say what happened and what the status of this is.
And also CID. Why I am saying this is, why doesn't the CID bring Mr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa and question him? We are not asking you to put him in jail and make him suffer. We are not asking for that. We are only asking you to bring him and question, because it's our money, my money, the younger generation's money, the people's money. It's not private money. It's a bribe that came to Sri Lanka because that stupid ship came and blasted all our coral reefs and destroyed our ocean. And so we are saying this is something that belongs to Sri Lanka. Why isn't the CID taking active role in that? And then another question is, every day there are people dying. Why can't the police at least let us know who these gangs are? They are saying Patal. I don't know what this actually means.
Underworld.
Underworld. But this underworld, right? Yeah, but people, even though you call it underworld, the people are walking on the on the streets. No?
Absolutely.
They are not underground that you can't see them, right? Just because you call them underworld doesn't mean that they are invisible. They are to be seen.
But Dr. Ajantha, now this brings us back to what you mentioned about what's going on in Kandy now. Fabulous event for all Buddhists and for all Sri Lankans. But as you said, there are hundreds of thousands of people there, and they could be anyone, and amongst them could be any type of people.
Exactly.
But our intelligence agencies don't seem to have a clue about ordinary Sri Lankans.
And I saw most of the policemen who are there, out of their good-heartedness, the policemen and the women, they are helping the people who are disabled, trying to help them to. But that's not their job. The job of a policeman is not to help people to help people to move from one place to the other. Get some volunteers for that. Don't use the police for that. Police are supposed to be giving security to the people. This is a fundamental principle that this country should understand. Policemen are there to give security. They are not supposed to do anything else. And why are they doing that at Kandy? So basically the question comes in, okay, maybe there are CID civil, so that they are not wearing a uniform, they must be hanging around just like the other people. But are they really taking care of it? Because I could see the railings are full of bags. We do not know what's in those bags, and we do not want to lose another set of lives. We can't afford to be that sad. We've had so many people losing their lives in this country, and we can't afford it. And therefore I say, are the security people checking those bags? Are they scanning those bags at least?
But Dr. Ajantha, if the police would carry out or practice some good old-fashioned policing of communities and get to know who lives where, who's doing which job, how many children are in this family, okay, who's unemployed, who's a drug addict. Well, it's very easy to figure it out, because in Sri Lanka everyone knows everyone. You know your neighborhood.
True.
But the police don't know the neighborhood because they don't come into the neighborhoods. They are in the police stations. Then you see them at rush hour directing traffic, and then you see them if there's some VIP function, they're there. But you don't see them going into the community on a regular basis. There is supposed to be a system, but I can't remember the last time a policeman visited my neighborhood.
I think there is someone called, or a group called, the community police. The community police are the ones who are supposed to be familiarizing themselves with the people in that area. For example, in our area, I think the police station knows where we live. Basically because they find out as to where each person live, and because they come for different functions and so on, and so these are the community police should be the ones who should be employed in order to help the people. But it's very, very important, and I'm saying this with so much of fear, because the normal police who are supposed to be keeping an eye on anyone who wants to create problems, it's very, very important that they keep a very good eye and make sure that you look after the people very well. The security of the country is highly important. When we look at the Easter attack, what we can see in the Easter attack is that at national level, they have utterly failed on security. And that's the story about the Easter attack.
Now, Dr. Ajantha, with this government in power, in office, and there is some progress on the front of justice, basically. Are you at all optimistic that we will see justice in the future for the Easter attacks and many other events, which, I mean, I'm not even going to list all those events because there's so many.
I think my hope is, because the president is fairly young, he doesn't have to worry about the next term. I keep telling him this. He should not worry about the elections. The most important thing he should be very worried about is that he gains the trust of the people. As the president, what he needs to gain is not votes. He should gain the trust of the people. How do you gain the trust of a person? Honesty and transparency. These are very, very important. And because he's much younger than me, I can tell him this. When you get on a platform, political platform, make sure that you do not give any promises at all where you're not too sure about. I know as politicians, we love to say things and we love to get a clap from the people, and people like to cheer, right? But at the end of the day, the question is, can you fulfill what you have promised? The trust comes from fulfilling what you have promised. So, most important thing for the president right now is, I don't think he needs to fear too much about getting the votes this time, because he has increased the salaries, he has given a good pension, and now the Newsfirst Perera is, the ceremony is on, that people are very grateful to him for that. So I don't think he has worries about it. But he needs to, from now onwards, be very sure that you always give a promise that you can keep. Then people know, this is a guy we can trust. That's how it goes. Words matter. And when the president is very strict, he's very sure of what he says, the police and the security will fall in place. When you are upright and when you are moving forward, right, the people behind learn from you and they will also begin to walk straight.
Well, it's not too difficult a task, is it? When you, in comparative terms, you take a look at the last several presidents, and the bar is very, very low, especially when you look at their performance. Let's see how they did with the Easter attacks. I mean, they have gone out of their way to give people an impression that they were more interested in a cover-up than anything else.
And also, I think the president was talking about Mr. Trump putting this high percentage of tax, and he said, no worries, our team is going there. But, you need to understand, we are just a tiny little country in the world. Our garment industry does not contribute that much to what comes to US. And in US, the consumers are so rich, they can afford to buy a lot of things. And if you go to US, you can see in the market, there is a huge variety. And people love to buy because they have the money for it. And so, we need to be very careful of what we are saying. When we are going to bargain, we need to understand two things. One is, they would want the tax that we are putting on the goods that are coming from America to be reduced. Automatically, that's what Mr. Trump is saying. He's saying, why are you putting tax on our goods? Why are you putting such high tax on our goods? So we will have to reduce. If you are going to be shaking hands with him, the thing that he's going to tell is, make sure that you are going to reduce the tax also. And then he's also ensuring that those goods will be sold here in Sri Lanka. There's a good supply of it to Sri Lanka, even though our consumer, who can afford those things are lesser, but they are good material what comes from US. And then another thing we need to understand is Mr. Trump is trying to ensure that his industry grows well. He is a good president. He does not want to make sure that his industries will fall. He wants to strengthen his own industries in his own country. Thereby, that's why he's putting so much tax, because he wants to make sure that the industries will grow, they become self-sufficient, and thereby their country will remain number one.
Well,
that's what he's trying to do.
There are many schools of thought on the performance of Mr. Trump, of course, but that is of little concern to us. What does concern us is our relationship, especially with in terms of our exports, with the US.
And then I think also, I mean, we need to be able to sell our garments, because we were number one in the world, right, at one time, and we did very well. I still remember going in England, buying a shirt for my father, coming home without looking at the label, and suddenly I give it to him and it was made in Sri Lanka, which I bought in London. So I was little bit proud also, we have such good quality. So we need to make sure that our garment industry is very stable. We need to protect it, because our tea industry has now become ranking second, which is sad, because we were number one at one time. So we need to be, I think Mr. President needs to now start developing our own industries. Time has come. Don't worry too much about, I think he worries too much about the election. I think he worries too much about the votes. Don't worry about what the opposition says. You are now in power. You have high power in parliament. So why worry? Even if you do not do that well in the local government elections, yet you have the power to run the country. So what you need to be interested in right now is to develop the local industry. Make sure that the production grows so that we become stable in a number of years that you have decided how it should move. This is what he should be worrying about. And I think also another thing added to that, after this Easter tax situation, make sure that the security of the country is well looked after. Do not make the same mistake. National Security Council should be well established and it should be well running, because even people who seem very friendly to you right now, it doesn't take very long before they become enemies. We have to be careful.
Interesting thoughts indeed. And my final question is, Dr. Ajantha, now we've had 2 elections, and in a couple of weeks we have the 3rd election.
Yes.
And it's likely that we won't have any more elections for some time. Now, do you see the ability of the government and of course the local government councils to take this country forward to progress?
Yeah, basically the most important, that's why I told Mr. President, do not worry about the local government election, because you need to have good teams at the local government level. It doesn't matter if they come from different other parties, right? The most important thing is to make sure that the local industry grows. Local cottage industry, for example, small timers, they need to grow, they need to develop their industries. And that's a lot of hard work. It has to be done at the grassroots level. We can't afford to be giving aswasma forever. We can't afford to be looking after poor people forever. My intention, my vision, my dream for Sri Lanka is, we will not have more than 5% of poor people in this country. We don't need poor people. What I'm saying is not that I'm rejecting them. What I'm saying is we should not have poor people. If we can allow people to develop their own little industries, become self-sufficient, become good farmers. And now they've started the Dambulla Refrigeration Center. I saw someone, Harsha has gone there, and I saw him saying that it's not up to standard. But we have the opportunity now to develop it. Develop it because storage of foods, especially vegetables and fruits, is very, very important. The farmers bring huge amounts of fruits and vegetables to Dambulla, and eventually what happens is they can't sell them and they go waste. But if you have a good refrigeration center, you can export it, you can send in smaller quantities to Colombo, and the farmers will also be happy because there is no wastage. We can't afford to be wasting fruits and vegetables. So, provide facilities at local government level, provide sufficient facilities for them, and make sure that the grassroots level industries grow, and don't let them become too dependent on the state. This is very important. Don't make people hang on you. It's nice to take a selfie with someone, but don't make them dependent on you. Very, very important, because people love to have the government giving them money and looking after them, but that's not the end of the story. This country needs to go further, and therefore it's very important that little by little you let them grow. It's just like with children. You don't want children to hang on you. I mean, I have 2 kids. I don't want them to be dependent on me. I need my money. Let them earn their own money, and that attitude should happen even with the government. You don't keep them together with you. You let them grow because they need to grow and also become self-sufficient.
And on that note, I'm afraid we are out of time. My thanks to my guest, Dr. Ajantha Perera, the well-known activist. Thank you for being with us this evening, Dr. Ajantha.
Thank you.
And thank you to you at home for watching. Don't go away because the news is coming up right after this. Have a great evening.